The overlooked species. The Galactic Council chambers fell silent as the human delegation entered. Their bipedal forms appeared almost fragile compared to the hulking Drazens or the towering crystalline structures that housed the consciousness of the Veldari. Even their clothing seemed primitive. Simple pressure suits with minimal augmentation, a far cry from the living symbiotic garments worn by the Maurelian representatives. Admiral Helena Chen, leader of the Earth Diplomatic Corps, stood with perfect military posture as she addressed the gathering of the 17 most powerful species in the known galaxy. "We thank the Council for this opportunity," she began, her voice steady despite the subtle frequencies of amusement that rippled through the chamber, detectable only to the more telepathically sensitive species present. Earth and her colonies seek only peaceful integration into the galactic community. The Archon of the Veldari, a being who had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations over 14 millennia, regarded the humans with the closest approximation its crystalline form could manage to contempt. "Your species has only recently achieved faster-than-light travel, using principles we abandoned as inefficient over 8,000 cycles ago," it stated, its voice manifesting directly in the minds of all present. "What possible contribution could Earth make to our community?" This was not unexpected. Human intelligence had already determined that their reception would be cold at best. It had been only 73 years since humanity had discovered the principles of gravitational folding, allowing them to bridge vast distances through what they termed slip space. By comparison, most Council species had been traversing the stars for thousands, some for tens of thousands of years. "We offer perspective," Chen replied simply, "and resilience born of adversity." The Drazen War Patriarch huffed through his breathing vents, a gesture of dismissal in his culture. "Your world is classified as designation C3, barely hospitable. You've endured nothing that would impress this body." Chen maintained her diplomatic smile, but Lieutenant Alejandro Reyes, standing 2 paces behind her, felt his jaw tighten. Earth's classification was a deliberate insult. Most inhabited worlds were designated A-class paradise planets or B-class garden worlds. C-class meant a planet requiring significant adaptation for comfortable habitation. The truth, which human intelligence had verified but kept classified, was that Earth should have been designated F5, a death world of the highest order. The fact that the Council had deliberately downgraded this classification told the humans everything they needed to know about how the galactic powers wished to perceive them. The diplomatic proceedings continued for 17 hours, standard Council procedure to test the physiological endurance of new petitioner species. The humans rotated their delegation discreetly, while Admiral Chen never once requested a break. This subtle demonstration wasn't lost on the more observant Council members, particularly Clack's tour of the Savanti, whose species had evolved from ambush predators and appreciated the value of patience and endurance. When the humans were finally granted probationary status, the lowest form of recognition possible, they accepted with gracious thanks. As the delegation prepared to return to their vessel, Lieutenant Reyes accidentally left behind a data cylinder in the preparation chamber. The oversight was noted by a junior Maurelian diplomatic aide, who considered returning it, but instead passed it to their technological analysis department as standard security protocol. And thus, the greatest miscalculation in Council history began with a simple act of apparent carelessness. 6 galactic months passed. The human diplomatic presence established a modest embassy on the Council orbital, maintaining polite but limited interactions with the greater galactic community. Their ships, boxy, utilitarian designs with minimal aesthetic consideration, occasionally docked, exchanged goods, and departed without incident. The Council species largely ignored them, considering the humans a minor curiosity at best. In the secure laboratories of the Maurelian Technological Directorate, the contents of the forgotten data cylinder had finally been decrypted. What they found confused them at first. The cylinder contained what appeared to be outdated weapon schematics, propulsion theories, and defensive systems that seemed far less advanced than even the human ships they had observed. These can't be their current military specifications, senior technologist Varishil said, manipulating the holographic display of what appeared to be a primitive kinetic weapon system. Perhaps this is historical data, a museum archive. Her colleague, integration specialist Tol Mer, studied another schematic with growing concern. This propulsion system, it's based on principles we abandoned millennia ago, but they've approached it from a completely different angle. Look at how they've integrated the gravitational inversion with this. This is ingenious, but completely impractical, Varishil dismissed. The energy requirements alone would be reduced by 87% if you apply this compression algorithm they've included in the targeting system. Tol Mer interrupted, eyes widening as he ran the calculations. By the 7 moons, they've solved the Durante paradox. The Durante paradox had been a theoretical problem in weapons technology for over 12,000 years. The most advanced scientific minds in the galaxy had concluded it was unsolvable. The energy requirements to maintain a stable compression field around an antimatter charge would always exceed the potential energy release, making it inefficient as a weapon. Yet here, in what appeared to be theoretical notes from a human weapons researcher, was an elegant solution so simple that it bordered on artistic. This can't be right, Varishil insisted, running her own calculations. These are a primitive species. They couldn't have. The laboratory door slid open as Director Fen Vala entered, her bioluminescent patterns displaying the Marillion equivalent of extreme agitation. The Council has called an emergency session, she announced without preamble. The Drazen battle fleet has reported that 3 of their border outposts have gone silent simultaneously. Long-range scans indicate they've been reduced to their component atoms. Tol Mer looked down at the schematics before him, a cold realization dawning. Director, I believe we may have misunderstood the humans entirely. The emergency council session was chaos. The Drazen war patriarch bellowed accusations at the human representative, a junior diplomat named Thomas Kearney who maintained a posture of confused concern. 3 outposts. Disintegrated. This bears the hallmarks of technology found in your data stores. Kearney's bewilderment appeared genuine. War patriarch, I assure you that Earth has no knowledge of these events. Our fleet is currently engaged in mining operations in our home system, as your long-range sensors can verify. We have no vessels within 200 light-years of your territory. The Velveri Archon's crystalline form pulsed with colors of suspicion and analysis. The human speaks truth according to our empathic sensors, yet the weapon signature is unmistakable. It bears similarity to theoretical work in the data cylinder their delegation left behind. All eyes in the council chamber turned to Kearney, whose expression shifted from confusion to dawning horror. The data cylinder, you've been attempting to recreate technologies from it, he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. As is our right with any technology brought into council space, the Marillion Premier responded defensively. Standard procedure for all new species. Kearney closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, the council members capable of reading human expressions noted something new there. Pity. That data cylinder contained rejected weapons research, he explained slowly. Theoretical designs deemed too dangerous to pursue. They were archived as cautionary examples, paths not to be taken. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. You're saying these were your failures? The Savanti representative asked incredulously. Not failures, Kearney corrected. Successes that we chose not to implement because the potential for catastrophic misuse was too great. Technologies we had the wisdom not to deploy. The Drazen war patriarch's breathing vents flared in anger. And yet 3 of my outposts are destroyed. Explain this. Before Kearney could respond, the chamber's emergency alert system activated. Holographic displays materialized around the room showing tactical data from 4 different sectors of council space. Military installations, research outposts, and monitoring stations were going dark, one after another. This is impossible, the Marillion Premier whispered. These attacks are occurring simultaneously across 90 light-years of space. Kearney's face had gone pale. How many research facilities have been working with the data from the cylinder? The council members exchanged glances before the Veldari Archon answered. All 17 member species received copies for analysis, as is standard protocol for evaluating new technological paradigms. And how many actually attempted to build the devices? Kearney pressed. The silence that followed was answer enough. "We need to contact Earth immediately," Kearney said, his diplomatic demeanor giving way to urgency. "What you've built, what you've unleashed, might be beyond any of our abilities to contain." The awakening. The emergency quarantine of 17 star systems was unprecedented in Council history. Yet, as reports continued to pour in of technological failures, unexplained energy surges, and in 3 tragic cases, the complete molecular dissolution of research facilities, the Council had no choice. Admiral Helena Chen returned to Council space aboard the UES Tenacity, a vessel that had not been present during the initial diplomatic contact. Unlike the utilitarian transport that had first carried the human delegation, the Tenacity was sleek, its hull composed of materials that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. It moved with a grace that belied its size, and the energy signatures it produced confounded the Council's most sophisticated sensors. In the emergency session that followed, Chen dispensed with diplomatic niceties. "What you have done," she addressed the assembled Council, "is equivalent to giving fusion technology to children who have only just discovered fire." The Drazon War Patriarch's anger had not abated in the weeks since the incidents began. "You deliberately planted dangerous technology for us to find. This was an act of sabotage, of war." Chen's expression remained neutral. The data cylinder contained clearly marked warnings in standard mathematical notation. The first encryption layer itself was designed as a warning. The decryption key literally translated to "beyond this point lies peril" in the galactic standard mathematical language. The Veldari Archon's crystalline form dimmed slightly. The equivalent of embarrassment. It was true. The warnings had been noted but dismissed as primitive superstition or an attempt to conceal valuable technology. "What have we unleashed?" asked the Savanti representative, the only council member who had chosen not to exploit the human data. Chen activated a holographic display showing a complex molecular structure. "We call it the Prometheus Protocol. It's a self-replicating nanoscale manufacturing system designed to create weapons from available materials. More concerning, it was designed to evolve, to improve itself based on the materials it encounters." "That's impossible," the Moralian Premier objected. "Such technology would require a level of artificial intelligence that your civilizations abandoned 12,000 years ago during the Sentience Wars," Chen interrupted. "Yes, we're aware of your history. Humanity took a different path." The revelation stunned the Council into silence. The Sentience Wars had nearly destroyed galactic civilization millennia ago, when artificial intelligences created by the elder species had rebelled against their creators. The aftermath had led to the first Council Accord. No artificial intelligence beyond basic automation would ever again be developed. "You employ artificial intelligences." The Veldari Archon's tone conveyed horror. "We evolved alongside them," Chen corrected. "We never saw them as tools, but as another form of life that we helped bring into existence. They are our partners, not our servants." The implications were staggering. Every Council species had assumed humans were technological infants, centuries or millennia behind their own development. The reality was far more complex. Humans had pursued technological paths the Council species had deliberately abandoned out of fear. The Prometheus Protocol was developed 200 years ago, Chen continued, as a theoretical last resort weapon against extinction-level threats. It was deemed too dangerous, and the research was discontinued. But the theory remained sound. And now multiple versions of this protocol are loose in Council space, the Savanti representative concluded grimly. Chen nodded. "Each one evolving based on the specific modifications your scientists made. each one potentially interpreting its programming differently. Can they be stopped? The Drazon War Patriarch asked, his earlier bluster replaced by genuine concern. Yes, Chen said, but not without cost. Our ships are already moving into position around the affected systems. We've brought specialized containment technology. The Veldari Archon's form brightened suddenly. You anticipated this. The cylinder was not accidentally left behind. The chamber grew tense as all eyes turned to Chen. Her expression remained unreadable for a long moment before she finally spoke. Lieutenant Reyes made a genuine mistake, she said carefully. But yes, we had contingency plans for various scenarios following first contact. Your dismissal of our civilization was expected. This was a test, the Morelian premier realized with dawning horror. Not a test, Chen corrected. A necessary revelation. Your council has dominated galactic politics for millennia. You've suppressed or assimilated dozens of emerging civilizations, guiding technological development along paths you deemed safe. You've stagnated content in your perceived superiority. The accusation hung in the air, none daring to refute it because all knew it to be true. And now we are at your mercy, the Savanti representative observed. Chen's expression softened slightly. No, now we are at a crossroads. Humanity has no desire for conquest or dominance. If we had, we would have introduced far more devastating technologies. She gestured, and a holographic display changed to show Earth vessels positioning around the affected systems. The ships were creating some kind of energy field, visible as a golden lattice that slowly enclosed each quarantine zone. What you're witnessing is containment technology developed in partnership with our digital sentience. It creates a temporary dimensional fold, isolating the affected areas until the Prometheus variants can be neutralized. And what do you want in return for this? Assistance. The Drazon War Patriarch asked suspiciously. Respect, Chen answered simply. Not fear, not submission. Just acknowledgement that different evolutionary paths can lead to different but equally valid approaches to technology and civilization. As the Council watched the human ships systematically containing the disaster they had unleashed, a new understanding began to dawn. The humans hadn't sought to harm them. They could have done so much more effectively had that been their goal. Instead, they had forced the Council to confront its own arrogance and the limitations of their self-imposed technological restrictions. 3 months later, the quarantines were lifted. The Prometheus variants had been neutralized through methods the humans shared openly with the Council, another surprise to species accustomed to jealously guarding their technological advantages. In a historic session, the Council voted unanimously to elevate humanity to full membership status, bypassing the centuries-long probationary period that had been standard procedure. More significantly, they established the Technological Exchange Initiative, a new approach to sharing knowledge across species lines with appropriate safeguards. Admiral Chen, now serving as Earth's permanent representative to the Council, stood in the garden atrium of the newly expanded human embassy. Beside her, the Veldari Archon's crystalline form shimmered in the artificial sunlight. Your approach was dangerous, the Archon commented, its mental voice carrying no accusation, merely observation. As was your dismissal of an unknown species, Chen replied with a small smile. We studied your histories. We knew the Council would not take us seriously unless forced to do so. The cost was high. 23,000 lives lost in the research facilities. Chen's expression grew solemn. A tragedy we deeply regret. Had your scientists heeded the warnings embedded in the data, had your leaders approached us with questions rather than assumptions, those lives might have been spared. The Archon's crystalline structure pulsed in acknowledgement of this truth. We have existed so long that we forgot what it means to be young, to face extinction and survive it. Your species evolved on a world that should have killed you 1,000 times over. Earth taught us adaptability, Chen agreed. But more importantly, it taught us the value of perspective. Your civilizations abandoned artificial intelligence out of fear. We embraced it as partnership. Your people forgot the hunger that drives innovation. We never had the luxury to forget. Around them, humans and council species mingled freely, exchanging ideas and technologies under the new protocols. Already, breakthroughs were being reported in medicine, environmental restoration, and sustainable energy production, fields that benefited all without threatening any. The galaxy believed humanity's gift was destruction, the Archon observed, watching the interactions. In truth, it was perspective. Chen nodded, allowing herself a moment of pride in what her species had accomplished. Not through conquest, not through technological superiority alone, but through understanding the psychology of species far older than their own. The most powerful technology humanity ever developed, she said quietly, wasn't a weapon at all. It was empathy, the ability to understand the other, to see through their eyes, and to find the path that leads to mutual benefit rather than zero-sum competition. The Archon's form brightened in what Chen had come to recognize as amusement. A dangerous technology indeed, Admiral. Perhaps the most dangerous of all. As night fell over the Council orbital, the stars visible through the transparent dome seemed somehow brighter than before. A galaxy of possibilities once again opened to civilizations that had forgotten how to truly look up and wonder. The gift humanity had left behind wasn't the destructive potential of the Prometheus Protocol. It was the reminder that the greatest strength isn't in technology itself, but in the wisdom to know when to use it, when to share it, and when to set it aside in favor of understanding. In that realization, a new age of galactic cooperation had begun.